Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable in the RICO 12 Family of Recovery Resources. I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm Justin P. I'm a recovering addict and a son of God, an all-powerful and all-loving God, and grateful to be the steward of the RICO 12 family. I'm living in the miraculous recovery that is promised in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous for those who do this with no half measures, and I'm sure trying to work this program progressively better, not perfect. I'm joined today by Nikki M. and David G., my cohorts around this virtual roundtable. And why don't we start out with you, Nikki? Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Hi, I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships, and I'm an intelligent agent spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. And I just got home from Luxembourg. The book talks about miracles, and my world's real big. And I didn't even know, wow, that was a country a few years ago. So when you work for God, I should have said, hi, I'm Nikki M. I'm a servant of the creator of the universe. And I'm grateful to be at this roundtable with Justin and David G.
Thank you, Nikki. We're happy you're here with us too. David, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Nikki. My name is David Green. I'm an alcoholic and an addict of many sorts from Oklahoma. Been in the rooms for almost 3 decades now, and I've been sick for the biggest part of those. So recovery is possible through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God. Good to be here today.
I loved that introduction today, David. I've been sick through most of it, and I think that's a path that we walk and strive to heal up. Thank you for sharing that. Today we're going to continue in our journey through the Big Book, continuing on the chapter entitled "There is a Solution," starting on page 23, and we're going to read through all of page 24 into the top of page 25, reading the words here. Then we will each have an opportunity to do a little bit of commentary and some takeaways from this. So sit down, grab your big book, pen, paper, highlighter, whatever it is you need to get this going, and put it into action in your lives as you have something jump off the page at you. Here we go. We'll get started. How true this is, few realize. In a vague way, their families and friends sense that these drinkers are abnormal. But everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will rouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. The tragic truth is that if a man be a real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. He has lost control. At a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. This tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable, at certain times, to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. The alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, "It won't burn me this time, so here's how." Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. How often have some of us begun to drink in this nonchalant way, and after the third or fourth, pounded on the bar and said to ourselves, "For God's sake, how did I ever get started again?" Only to have that thought supplanted by, "Well, I'll stop with the 6th drink," or "What's the use anyhow?" When this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history, but for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop, but cannot. Man, powerful stuff in there, and how many times have I also been in that place? For God's sake, how did I ever get started again? Only to say, well, I may as well get good and drunk now, so here we go. Nikki, why don't you tell us a couple of the things that jump out at you as we read through those pages and your experience, strength, and hope on those?
Okay, thank you so much, Justin. I always hear it different when people read it, and it's just a new experience with this book every day. And when it says family and friends sense that there's an abnormal, and that the sufferer, see the sufferer, they're suffering, Al-Anons, codependents, everybody who loves somebody who's in the disease of alcoholism, they are suffering, and that they will arouse themselves. They're beyond human aid, and they have no willpower. And it says, I love this where I put here, they're dead asleep. My line out says, I'm dead asleep in life. See, when I'm deep in my addiction, I'm dead asleep in my life. And it says, the real alcoholic, the happy day may not arrive. My line out, everybody knows, who knows me, 2 stepdads to the disease of alcoholism. I just did a talk when I was in Europe with Karen about Al-Anon. And I talked, I can't barely make it through, just the disease of alcoholism. This happy day may not arrive. So everybody needs to remember this, that it says, and we understand, in our book later on in the To the Wives, it says, no situation is too difficult. No unhappiness is too great to be overcome when you live this design for living. So there is hope, even though the people you love will not be able to arouse themselves, or you may not be able to arouse yourself. That day may not arrive. This is radical living. And it says, he has lost control. Again, dead asleep, my liar always wins. It's going to be different this time. It's going to be different. And I pass into a state of mind. Remember, we just read in our last episode, we were talking about how this centers in our mind. The most powerful desire. I wanted to stop. For the love of my children, I could not stop. For the love of anything or anyone, I could no avail, absolutely no avail. And this is a fact that most alcoholic addicts, type 3s, the type that we talked about, the real addict, for reasons obscured. We don't know. We've lost the power of choice in our drinking, thinking, acting out. So-called willpower, non-existent. It doesn't exist. I cannot bring into my consciousness, I'm dead asleep, with sufficient force, the suffering and humiliation. And I've had some, I'm a hardcore love addict. And I have done some humiliating things, and I don't remember it. I just keep going and going and going. And I'm without defense against the first drink, thought, act, bite, scroll, fear, all of that. And it says, I love here, the consequences that follow, they don't crowd my mind. My mind is filled with 400 forms of madness, says page 62. Selfishness, self-centeredness, self-pity. Why me? And none of it comes in that I need to do better, be better. Because why? The thoughts occur, they're hazy, and I'm lazy. And I've got lies in my head. I'm a complete failure of any kind. And, putting the hot hand on the stove, putting my hand on some hot guy. I forget my DOC. And then I say to myself, I lie to myself. I don't think at all. This is all in my thinking. For God's sakes, how did I do this again? How did I throw my life away again? How did I do this? And then for me, there is no God. It's like, why God? Why? Because I'm not in God's will. There is no God. I'm blacked out. I'm literally blacked out in my thinking. Because it says right here, when this sort of thinking, remember, I'm programmed from I'm in the disease of alcoholism in my mom's womb. Not even for, the love addiction. My mom chased my story. So, it's just generational. I've got this energy through me from time. And when this sort of thinking is established in an individual, in an alcoholic household, we, the family, me, Nikki, I'm placed beyond human aid. Facts. But for the grace of God. And I love this where it ends here. So many, many, I blocked it, circled it, squared it. Many pursue it to the gates of insanity or death. We'll read in 5 pages from now, but many cannot stop. They cannot. This is not easy. Simple, but not easy. A price must be paid. We read that previously. So, oh God, this book just sets me on fire. I can't wait to hear what David says. Woo!
Nikki, I can't wait to hear what David says either. David, jump in here. Tell us what you say.
Hey, everybody. David Green, alcoholic. I love that. Woo! Sound like Ric Flair back in the day. You know, if you're a wrestling fan, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you don't. It's all good. So once in a while, he may tell the truth. I like to look at the word may, because hell, he may not, you know, but God, this is so powerful, so powerful. When I came back through this work in 2019, it wasn't because everything was wonderful and I wanted to have a new experience with God and learn the book and pass it along. My ass was dying at 25 years sober, right here in this very room I'm in today, laying on the floor begging God to either take my life or get me out of it. Don't teach me how to walk through it. Just, you know, help me avoid the consequences here of my behavior. That shit's not going to happen. And so, you know, I met a man. He decided that, yeah, we can go through the big book together, but I'm going to read and you're going to listen. And I'm like, that's all bullshit. You know, I mean, I don't need anybody reading the book to me. And well, I was in a bad enough place to where I had to concede to that. And I am so glad I did, because what we read here today is really what helped me to see that I'm dying from something that no human being is going to be able to help me from. Nothing. And I'm sober for a lot of years in the rooms, and had great experiences. And, you know, I think we read it there at the bottom of 23, you know, everybody hopefully awaits the day when the sufferer will arouse himself from his lethargy and assert his power of will. And hell, I was kind of waiting on that myself, even though I was the sufferer here. But the tragic truth be, if the man's a real alcoholic, that happy day may not arrive because he's lost control. And Nikki said it, you know, he passes into that state of mind where the most powerful desire to stop, and for me at that time it was acting out, is of absolutely no avail. I just could not stop, even though all of this shit was falling down around me. But I love the squiggly writing. The fact. See, this isn't a theory. This isn't some shit that might be true or it might. No, this is a fact. That most alcoholics, not all, but most, for reasons yet obscure, hell, they don't know, we don't know, have lost the power and choice and drink. See, I didn't lose the choice to drink or to use. I lost the power. And when we get to page 45 in this book, it's going to talk to us about power being our dilemma, lack of it. And so right here, I'm starting to get a look at how the mind is what has robbed me of this power and choice. I used to run around in the rooms after a lot of years being sober, and I would say, today I have a choice whether I drink or not, thank God. And my sponsor caught me outside of the meeting hall one night, and he said, I'm tired of hearing that shit out of you. I was like, well, why would you say that? You know, I mean, he said, you're running around saying you have a choice whether or not you drink. Do you really believe that? And I said, I do. And he said, well, let me ask you this. And he's a pretty brash fellow, still is to this day. He said, when you wake up in the morning, who do you ask for help to stay sober today? I said, God. He said, then where the hell is your choice? Was that your choice? Or did you make a choice to call upon the power, the creator of the universe? If you made that choice, then you made the right choice. But if you don't do that and you think you got a choice whether you can drink today or not, good luck with that. And that changed the entire way that I looked at this paragraph, because it says our so-called willpower, hell, it's so-called, it's non-existent. But I'm unable at certain times, see, not all the time. This is how the ego is so tricky. At certain times, I'm not going to be able to bring into my consciousness the memory, suffering, humiliation of even a week or month ago. That's why I'm without defense against the first drink, not many drinks or several drinks, the first. And now we're going to start looking at what the book really is going to start hammering out to us. The almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. If these, keyword, 6-packs, 12-packs, lust, internet occur, no, thoughts. If these thoughts occur, They're hazily, readily supplanted with the old threadbare, here's our key word, idea. Oh, hell, now we're starting to see what the trouble is, huh? This time we shall handle ourselves like there's a complete failure in the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove. So the alcoholic may say to himself, it won't burn me, here's how, or perhaps he doesn't, keyword, think at all. Hell, it's eluded my consciousness. It tells me at the top of 24. You know, my willpower is practically non-existent. So why would I think that? How often do some of us begin to drink in this nonchalant way after third or fourth pound on the bar and said to ourselves, for God's sakes, how to get, only to have that internet, lust, food? No, that thought supplanted by, well, you know, I'll stop with 6. Where the hell does a thought like that come from just out of the blue? Obviously, I haven't recovered from my thinking yet by this point. And here's what got me in 2019 when he read this to me. The man that I was not going to let read the book to me. When this sort of thinking, not food, not drugs, this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual, and for me at that time it was sexaholic tendencies, he's probably placed himself beyond human aid, and he had me stop right there. And he said, when you go to the meeting and you fellowship with all these people that you desperately need in your life, are they human? I said, they are. He said, has that helped you over a long period of time to recover? No. The sponsors you've had, and I've had some of the best of the best. The reason is because I've placed myself beyond human aid. See, there is a solution. The way I read this, it offers me 2 powers. One is the power of the fellowship to support me, but the other is the power of the spiritual experience to transform me. And he tells me right here what I just read. If I've placed myself beyond human aid, that's people in my fellowship, that's in my family, that's my sponsor, that's my preacher, that's this, that, they're all human. And as bad as I need those people, I've put myself in a place now to where that shit's not going to help me. I better find this experience or I'm going to die. And he says it in the next sentence, unless locked up, he will die or go permanently insane. And these stark and ugly facts, not theories, are confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. For the grace of God, there'd have been, so many more demonstration. There's a word, so many want to stop but cannot. And that's where I found myself. And one of the things I found too is by talking the truth about this book usually pisses a lot of people off, or it seems to. But here's my situation on that. Sometimes pleasing God, it just comes down to disappointing people. So if people don't want to hear the truth about what I have to say about the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and my experience in it, then don't invite me to come speak, because I'm damn sure going to talk about the Big Book and recovery from therein. So, Justin, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, David. Love that. Love that. All right, Nikki, I got a question for you, and it may be a fairly quick answer. We'll see. The question that came to me as you were speaking was, my question is, how do you get reawakened to God, to sanity, when insanity encroaches in your mind? How does that, what process do you go through to go, okay, I'm losing my bleep here, I need to get sane again?
Oh, that's a great question, because it centers in my mind. So one day I asked my sponsor, what's your first thought when you wake up? And he said, thank you, God. And then I said, well, wow, that's cool. Like you wake up and your first thought is, thank you, God. And then I've got, my boyfriend, Mr. Luxembourg, and then he's laying there. It's like, I just have to look at him, and he's in the obsession of thank you, God. That's his only speak, I think, in English is God. Thank you, God, and the obsession of it. So I'm surrounded, because when you are living a lifestyle, this is a lifestyle. I'm surrounded by people, you gentlemen included, who teach me these things. So remember, we read, I think, last episode about the obsession. Well, it's the paragraph before what we're reading today, the obsession. And so how do I do it? I start obsessing about gratitude. See, my book very clearly says on page 119, when resentful thoughts come. Now, what does that mean? When Nikki doesn't get what she wants, when she wants it, how she wants it, And that's very often. Okay. That's especially lately we're in 2024, everybody, but we just survived and I thrived in COVID, but I wasn't getting what I wanted. I lost my job, couldn't get on a plane for 2.5 years. I mean, you name it. And so I had to get deep into the obsession, because it says when resentful thoughts come, it doesn't say if, it says when, I am to pause. Now, everybody, what's your pause land look like? Because it's in your mind. Everything centers in your mind. So this pause land doesn't need to be external. It needs to be in my mind. And I count. My line out says, Nikki doesn't just count. I don't just count money. I obsess about money. I don't just count men. I obsess about men. I don't just, count, blah, blah, blah. I am obsession. So I have to start obsessing. And it says about your blessings, about my blessings. And they are limitless, because I have a limitless expansion with God. If it centers in my mind, it's right in the book, one of the stories, page 275. Let's just tap on that real quick. I know I was supposed to give a little short answer, but that's what it is. So there's 4 obsessions. And if you know me, I teach them. It's the obsession of gratitude, the obsession of serving others. Hey, caveat, wanting nothing in return. This is radical. You cannot want an accolade, validation, nothing in return, a sincere desire. And then, of course, the last 2 obsessions, number 3 and 4, love and tolerance is our code. And then it says on page 275, and I'll end here with this answer. See, it says AA is not a plan for recovery that can be finished and done with. It's a way of life. And these challenges in its principles is enough to keep any human striving for as long as I live, forever. And then it says right here, this is a program for living that allows for limitless expansion. I'm like David, don't invite me into your room if we're not going to talk about what does the book say? And it says limitless expansion, a way of life, a way of thinking and being. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be like a big book weirdo. I love you guys.
Thanks, Big Book Weirdo Nikki. Happy to have you here. Okay, David, my question for you comes from you shared, you were in the rooms a long time and you were laying on the ground just screaming for relief and finding the easier, softer way. How can I get through this without the consequences? How when it came down to that, why has it been better for you to go through the hell of those consequences rather than be relieved of those consequences and have it an easy journey?
Well, in my experience, I'll always return to it. If there's not any consequences for me to bear, or they're very minimum, then it's really not as bad as I let on like it was. Maybe I'd been making too serious a deal out of this matter, And so, I just know for me, it took everything that it took that day. And when we were at the bottom of 24 and the top of 25 coming through this part of the work, I knew for the first time that I'm going to die in the fellowship. I just knew it. And had that not came to me in that moment, had I not had to suffer the consequences quite so bad, I may not have come to the realization of that until it was too late. I know that when all of that happened, I was really trying to take the easier, softer way to get out. One woman had stepped up and said, hey, he's done this and he's done this. And another one did. And I was putting out all these grass fires, but hell, they were popping up everywhere else. And for the first time, I was really stripped of all the masks that I had on. And after 25 years, I'm left standing there. So a year and a half later, I leave Alcoholics Anonymous, go to Sexaholics Anonymous. A year and a half later, I'm asked to come back and speak at a conference. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And the guy that had taken me through this book said, yeah, you're absolutely going to do that if you want to continue to work with me. And so long story short is the reason why is because I didn't know how to tell my story anymore. I had lied so much about it through the years from behind the podium based on the information that I had within me. But, I did go back and I did tell the truth, and that's made for a very good journey. I'd like to tell you I haven't made any more mistakes. I most definitely have. We all do. But, to answer your question, I think that any time that I'm cut short of the consequences of my behavior, then I'm not completely finished. I'm just not. So Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, David. I really appreciate that walkthrough. I think one of the things that you shared there that was really helpful for me was, if the consequences are minor, I was making a big deal out of something that wasn't really a big deal. But if I'm avoiding and skirting the consequences, then well, they'll come back and bite me. What comes around goes around. So, all right, let's get into takeaways on this. Nikki, what's a takeaway from our reading or from what we've discussed so far today for you?
Oh, I guess there's so much. I mean, this is just exciting because I came on here today and it's like I have nothing to offer. I was a little restless, irritable, and discontented. And it's like I'm just so excited. My takeaway is, I guess, the title, which is there is a solution. There is a solution, but for the grace of God. I hear David's story and it's like David has a really powerful God. Even in the most people that I love and respect, they've suffered. There's stories of the past. People had to go through things. God really works those who want to work for him. And so that's my takeaway is there is a solution, but for the grace of God. And I just love it here. I'm grateful. Thank you.
And thank you, Nikki. David, how about a takeaway for you?
Sure. This is just so powerful. It always is to come into this room with you guys and, without, reading it word for word in the book, really, I'm acting out, I'm drinking, I'm doing all of these things because it mimics a spiritual experience. It just does. And that's why I do it. I suffer from the manifestations of self. When people share about the manifestation, they usually, claim it to be theirs, myself, yourself, ourself, but I know today that I'm not the self. I'm just not. And, and I would fall back on my memories so much, but you can love a memory all you want. It just can't love you back. The primary purpose for me today is to remember that which is important to us. And I usually forget that. So, the takeaway for me is, grief isn't shared, but comfort is. And that's what we're looking for here. So, Justin, thank you so much for being of service and allowing me to be here. Nikki, thank you too. Thank you so much.
Beautiful stuff, David. Beautiful stuff. I'm going to share my takeaway. And this comes from when I was going through the Big Book with my Big Book sponsor a few years ago when we were on this page. He related a visual image in my head that really was powerful that I haven't been able to let go of. It's really good. He says, you are standing you're on the outskirts of a dance floor, and there's a giant silverback gorilla in the middle of the floor waiting for anybody to come in and dance with that silverback gorilla. And when the obsession happens and you think that this time you're going to be able to avoid that dance with that silverback gorilla, happens and you step out there, guess what? The gorilla decides when the dance is over. I don't get to decide that anymore. I am powerless at that point, and that gorilla is going to do whatever and beat me up, and whatever is going to happen until the gorilla is done. And I just have to, well, when I'm insane, I don't remember that. But I love that imagery that makes me go, okay, I'm getting close to this dance floor. Do I really want to watch this, or do I want to get close enough to where I'm going to happen? And hopefully the obsession is gone. I can obsess on gratitude before that happens. I can obsess on those the principles that will actually pull me away from that counterfeit, that mimicking dance floor that really isn't going to do me any good. Anyways, everybody, I hope that you have found something meaningful in this conversation. It's been super powerful for me. When you come back, stay, come all the way in, sit all the way down, and let's commence shoulder to shoulder as we walk this trail and pathway and road of happy destiny. Work it. You are worth it.